It started in South Korea, but it's caught on here in the U.S. too,
Hmm.
with women on TikTok saying they're dry and refusing to date men.
It's a complicated issue, and it's important to understand why women are doing this. While it's seen as a way for women to take control and reject traditional gender roles, it also shows how disillusioned and angry some women are towards men, especially after the election results.
It's like they're saying, if men are going to keep supporting policies that hurt women, then we're not going to play along anymore. It's a kind of political protest, but on a personal level.
And it makes you think about whether these tactics actually work. While it might be a strong way to make a statement, it could also push men and women further apart and make it harder to make progress on the issues that these women care about.
It's almost like they're saying, if you don't agree with us, we're going to punish you by not being with you. Just seems counterproductive.
Yeah, it highlights the challenges of bringing political activism into your personal life. How do you balance your personal choices with your political beliefs without hurting yourself or alienating the people who could support you? It's a really tough question.
It also makes you worry about what this means for society in the long term. What if a lot of women decide not to have relationships or families? What will happen to society?
Those are really important questions. It's too early to say what the long-term effects of the 4B movement will be. But it's important to understand the reasons behind it. Why do some women feel so let down and powerless that they're making these drastic choices?
It's not just about individual choices.
Hmm.
It's about the bigger problems in society, the cultural norms and institutions that create inequality between men and women, and make it possible for movements like this to happen.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that these personal choices often reflect deeper societal issues. Ignoring them won't make them go away. It will only make things worse.
This election has really had a huge impact on people's lives, not just in terms of policies, but also in how we connect with each other,
Yeah.
how we see the world, and how we understand our place in it.
And we have to remember that we're all going through this together, trying to understand this new reality and figure out what comes next. It's a lot to take in, and it's easy to get caught up in all the negativity and challenges. But even in the midst of all the chaos and division, there are still moments of hope, moments of connection and understanding that remind us that we're not alone.
And those moments, even if they're small, are really important. They show us that even when we disagree strongly, we can still find common ground. We can still connect with each other as human beings, and we can still work together to build a better future.
It's about remembering that we're all human, even when it feels like we're from different planets. We all want the same things: connection, belonging, and a world where we feel safe, respected, and valued.
And that's something worth fighting for, even when things seem uncertain and the challenges seem impossible.
Okay, so we've talked about how this political divide is affecting people personally, the relationships that are being strained, the families that are breaking apart, and the rise of movements like the 4B. This election has really touched a nerve and brought up a lot of deep-seated anxieties and fears. And again, it's important to remember that these reactions, no matter how intense or controversial they seem, are coming from real concerns that people have. It's not about dismissing those concerns. It's about trying to understand where they're coming from and having a more nuanced and productive conversation.
Exactly. It's about moving past the anger and the labels and really trying to understand each other. But how do we actually do that? Where do we go from here? I think that's the question everyone is asking.
That's the question we'll try to answer in the next part.
So where do we even go from here? It feels like we're on the edge of this huge divide in society, and I don't know how we're supposed to fix it.
Yeah, that's where we're all trying to figure out, isn't it? How do we move on after an election that's left so many people feeling lost, angry, and disconnected?
We've seen all the emotions, the broken relationships, and the deep anxieties that this election brought up. But is there any way to turn all this energy, all this passion, into something good?
That's the challenge. We can easily get stuck in this cycle of anger and blame, retreating into our own little worlds and demonizing anyone who disagrees with us. But that just makes the problem worse. What we need now is to listen to each other, to try to understand each other, and to find some common ground.
That sounds nice, but it's easier said than done, especially when it feels like the other side isn't even listening.
It definitely takes two to have a real conversation. But even if the other side isn't ready, we can still choose to approach these conversations with empathy and a real desire to understand.
So you're saying even if it feels like we're talking to a wall, it's still worth trying.
Absolutely, because change has to start somewhere. It starts with us. We can't control how others react, but we can control our own actions. And by choosing empathy and respect, even when we face hostility, we might just plant a seed that could grow into something positive later on.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. But how do we actually do that? Where do we even start?
It starts with small things, like talking to someone who has different views than you. Not to try to change their mind or prove them wrong, but to really listen and understand their perspective.
I think that's a really important point. It's not about winning an argument. It's about being open-minded and trying to see the world from someone else's point of view.
Exactly. And it's about being willing to acknowledge that their concerns are valid. Even if you don't agree with their conclusions, people feel heard and respected when you show them that their perspective matters, even if it's different from yours.
That makes sense. It's about creating a space where people feel safe to express themselves without feeling judged or mocked.
And it's about being willing to look at our own biases. We all have them, and they can make us see things in a distorted way. By being aware of our own biases, we can start to see things more clearly and have more objective and empathetic conversations.
So it's about personal growth as well as social change. It's about looking at ourselves as well as the world around us.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we're all part of the problem and we all have a responsibility to create a better a society that is more just equitable and compassionate. And that starts with each of us, with our own thoughts, words, and actions.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, though. Like one person can't possibly make a difference when there's so much division and hate.
It's definitely a huge challenge. But I do believe that change is possible. One conversation, one act of kindness, one step at a time. And it starts with choosing hope over despair, connection over isolation, and understanding over judgment.
It's about remembering that we're all in this together, even when it feels like we're miles apart.
And it's about believing that a better future is possible, even if we don't know exactly how to get there.
Well, that's a pretty optimistic way to end this conversation. And to be honest, I needed to hear that. This whole deep dive has been pretty intense, but I feel like I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely keep thinking about these things.
That's what we hope for. It's about continuing the conversation facing these challenges and trying to be better both as individuals and as a society.
So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the aftermath of the election. We've covered some difficult topics, but we hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit hopeful.
Remember, the future isn't set in stone. We create it together through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to connect with each other, even when we disagree.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring these issues, keep talking about them, and keep looking for different perspectives, because the more informed and engaged we are, the better we'll be able to face the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the most interesting and complex issues of our time.